Good morning, Flosstube. It's Pam, stitching between the lines. Today's January 30th, 2024, and this is Flosstube number 134. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm in my office space here, which the lighting is kind of crappy. It's very gray out, and it's only 7:39 in the morning. Very wintry day. Not with snow, but everything's snow covered, and no sunshine, gray sky. I like winter. I like winter weather. I mean, not like if I have to drive in it or anything, but like long-term gray skies don't bother me in the least. So yeah, it's January 30th, and I guess this is what you get. We haven't had a lot of snow, which is kind of knock on wood. I'm gonna knock on wood because, you know, they were saying in last summer, they were saying it was going to be a very snowy winter. But yeah, so far not. So far not. We're at least halfway done. Because we can have snow anywhere from like Halloween until into April. So February, March, yeah, we're doing good. Knock on wood. Again, knock on wood. You put that out there in the universe and who the heck knows what could happen. So today's a Tuesday morning. Usually I have the baby. She has her checkup this morning, so she'll be a little bit late. She gets a whole slew of vaccines, so today and tomorrow are liable to be kind of tough days, tomorrow especially. So who knows what I can get done. But yeah, I stitch a lot. She naps. Yay. She naps a couple times a day, and so I get stitching done because, you know, kind of have to be a little quiet around the house. Our space is not very big. So I do get a lot of stitching done, which you will see. So what have I done? Well, first of all, I'm going to put a picture right here. Of something I forgot to put in the last video, the ornament I made from the JBW pattern, rabbits on the round, rabbits in the round, rabbits all around, one of those, something like that. And said I was going to put the picture in, and then I totally forgot. So I'll do that here. And then also as a little bit of a catch up, I said, as I made the last video close to the end of December, I have no idea where the camera is. Somewhere around the screen. I don't know. On this iPad, I haven't been using it all that long, so I haven't really had to think about it. So on my last video, I said, oh, it's not in the bag, sorry. I said that I had one more thing I was probably going to start in December, which I did. I started Sarah G's, I know, Sarah G. I think she used that name for a little while, Sarah G. And her last name is really hard to say, so we'll just go with it. Christmas Windows 2. I did start it. I started it on the called for fabric, which I can't tell you the name because it's written in Italian on this here pattern, but it's that polka dot fabric. So I had like about, I don't know, 1 or 2 days of one day. This feels like one day of stitching on it. And it is this window outline that I have started, and I've done the white of the snow that's sitting on the window ledge, and then had some thread and went down and started the snowflake. Yeah, that'll work. Snowflake that's in the window down below. So I've always loved her patterns, wanted to stitch one. So I started. I almost pulled it out to work on another time in January, and then I didn't. So the only two things, this isn't a Flosstube where it's like, don't blink or you'll miss it. The only things I worked on in January, no new starts, no anything exciting to talk about, was Tiny Modernist's 12 Christmas Carols. Let me show you the printout of the pattern. So cute. I loved it the first time I saw it. I went straight out to kit it up and get to work on it. Which didn't work immediately as I thought, but I did start within a couple days. And it's funny, it's called 12 Christmas Carols. They're not all Christmas carols. Some of them are lines out of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, the night before Christmas. It's stitched on a 28 count Winter Wishes Fabrics by Steph. And when I showed it to you last, I was going to start this. Yeah, that part. This is up one block. And I'm thinking I'm kind of working on one block a month, although I like it so much that it's kind of the piece I pull out when I'm like tired and I don't want to get out my gigantic kingdom of books. I had put in, while working on this, I put in all the words that I could, because for me, those are the, like, you gotta trudge through the words in order to get to the real part you want to stitch. So I started this the other night. That's all I did. I actually think I worked on it twice to get to this point. Yeah, sometimes by night, or if I've had to do something in the evening, I'm tired. I just stitch a little tiny bit. So one a month for sure, maybe more. So isn't that cute? It's so cute on 28 count. They're so cute how small they are. Like, here's a pen. Look at that. They're so cute. I love how delicate they are. So that's one I look forward to each time I decide that's what I'm going to work on. It's such a cute pattern. And then the big whopper this month, as I talked about in my, I know the light, I tried to get the screen so it wasn't with catching the light, but if that light's off, it's too dark. But here, if I scooch over, you get to see my Mermaids of the Deep hanging on the wall over my sewing machine in the back wall of my office here. Okay. Kingdom of Books. So that was my January project. And when I spoke of plans, very loosey-goosey plans for 2024, because of my babysitting gig that will last through June, I said I'm going to finish this year. That's no loosey-goosey unless something catastrophic happens. I'm finishing it this year. I said I would work on it in January, and then work on Rural Post Office in February, and then come back to this in March and finish it. Rural Post Office at Christmas did not even come to this house with me. There's too much. It's too complicated. My stitching time is, even this is almost too much stuff to drag out, even just during nap time kind of thing. The saving grace on this is that it's on the kit 14 count, and I can kind of work on it a little bit here and there without the magnifier. Maybe if the baby's happy playing on the floor, I can pick it up and maybe just, I spend a lot of time sitting on the floor. I can work on maybe just, there's a lot of, the way the pattern flows is there's a lot of color that works its way down one little segment and then another little segment that goes down. So if I don't have to concentrate super hard and just need to follow how many stitches in each row, I can kind of make my way down a row, a swatch of color. So that's kind of what I'm doing. But if I'm doing anything like background or all the bazillion little color changes that make up each of these like little outlined areas, which is torture, by the way, I can't really do that without sitting with my magnifier and the pattern right in front of me, that kind of thing. So it's hit or miss. Rural Post Office at Christmas is never going to be that kind of pattern. So here she is. Are you ready? Surprised. Oh my God. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh. So let's start at the beginning. I started in the middle is where I started. And then I worked my way over here, one book at a time. And then I came back to the middle and I started working my way over here. When I worked on this side, I just got a text with a picture of the baby doing something. When I worked on this side, I finished the top. I started and finished the top. I got about, I don't know, maybe this far, and then I decided I better get working on that background. And then I tried sort of to keep up as I did each book. I still need to do everything that goes along the bottom, which is several rows of a, I don't know, different color that it's the ground color. I don't know what to call it. Sidewalk, road. So I stitch in hand, which is one of the things that allows me just to pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. But it's also what has made this side go faster because I roll up my work and that's what I hold. and the other hand, does the work. And when I was over here stitching by hand, it was a lot to hold. And it was a bit cumbersome and slow. You can tell from the pattern rolling that I rolled it from the top to some degree. But back over here, this month I worked on 1, 2, 3. I don't know. Did I 1, 2, 3? Or did I start with this one? I think I started with the 1, 2, 3, and that's all I expected to get done. That is true. 1, 2, 3. I expect to get done in January. I can do about a book a week, but because now I'm doing the background, add that in, it takes up more of my time. But this time I managed to get a 4th book done, which I actually just finished last night. But at the same time I was doing this book, I was working on this book, because these colors, the light colors, are what work, all this outline stitch nonsense. This is what I dislike the most is, there's 4 stitches of color, and then above and below it are 2 stitches of the next shade. And then, so it's not an easy pattern to follow. And I only want to skip spaces so far. So you kind of have to start and then just build off of it. And you might have to revisit the same color coming around the other side. So, I don't know. The last book. This is the last book. This is the next to last book. I don't know that maybe I could finish it today and tomorrow. That would be done in January. It really depends on how poorly the baby feels, what her mood is. She's such an easygoing baby, but she's getting a lot of vaccines today, so I'm expecting a not so great feeling baby tomorrow. So yeah, this one, if I could, mostly, other than the details that fill in the door and the window above it, and this window, which is some of the more brown, and then there's blue. Let me find the picture to show you. Other than the window detail, which is a little bit, the same colors are used both in the top and the bottom. It's just those long swatches of color, because I've done all that light background. And the final book is a wide book, and it incorporates all the things that I like the least, like lots of window outlines, lots of outlines of all this light colored stuff, excuse me, and then a whole section of this, the shades change. It's both the light and the dark. This purple one had 2 of those patches. I was very glad to be done. And here I have another one coming. Like I said, it incorporates everything that I don't really care for in these books. But blue is my favorite color. I don't know. I'll get it done, clearly, but it's how quickly I can stay on task. And the books will be done, and I will be exclusively on background. Now, let me get my chair back under me here. I'm changing the book titles. Sorry, Brenda, I need to send you an email or a message or whatever. Just to ask you, make sure it's okay that I copied down all the titles that you said when you translated them, and I intend to, do the titles in English. They're all books to do with architecture. So, isn't that awesome? I haven't even looked at the stitch count of this to see how I don't think I have it in here. I left most of the pattern in the other room. Stitch count is not listed right here. How close to a Heaven and Earth design pattern it is, which is probably very similar, but it's a easier pattern to follow. You can look at the pattern and see a book shape as opposed to a Heaven and Earth design pattern. It's so incredibly like confetti pixelated. It's hard sometimes to pick out what it is you're stitching. You kind of stitch a line, you're like, oh my gosh, that's a tree. So that's the way that goes. So I'm turning around because I'm thinking about what I'm doing next. Sorry, not really trying to leave you. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with these two things in February. So not a lot of exciting change there. I watched Nancy of the So and So's. She was half of the duo, and then she kind of had some family obligations and split off and wasn't recording. Well, she recorded a video on her own recently, and she talks about she watches her twin grandsons who are I don't know if they're toddlers yet. They're under 2. Um, I'm sure they're walking. That's why she has no time. She does her hand embroidery mostly when she's got them. And I thought, oh, doy, I have an embroidery from Crabapple Hill that I haven't touched in a couple years. I should bring that here and then have that for quick, easy pickup and lay down, because I've been very negligent with that pattern. I always want to cross stitch. I always only want to cross stitch. So so there's that. So yeah, that'll be what I'm doing, what I'm working on. And I'm not going to say that I won't start something new. It depends. February break is in February. Joke. It's a week-long school break. So I will have a whole bunch of time, knock on wood, on my hands that I can maybe do that. Sorry. I can edit that out. So yeah, I'm loving the progress. It's just not a lot of like variety to show on Flosstube, but I don't really stitch just for Flosstube. So there's that. So anyway, there you go. I as I'm working away and whatever, and we picked up our Christmas stuff before we came to this house, obviously, because we're not going back till, well, I run back. I stop back. Sometimes I went and got my hair cut. And so it's only an hour away. So I do get back there. And I was noticing a spot on the wall that I took a Christmas piece down from and packed them up. I packed up a lot of my Christmas pieces that I don't usually pack away. Sometimes they stay on the wall, maybe in my sewing area. And I'm like, oh, I packed that up. I think I need something spring for that spot. So I am, if you can believe it, I know. It's not hard to believe. I'm cruising all over the internet, looking at all the shops and all the spring stuff. There's Luca S that I really like. That's a spring bouquet. And there's some other ones. And I'm like, my mind is working away, and I'm looking and scrolling and looking and scrolling. And then it just hit me. I'm like, what are you doing? So at home I went through, I forgot to grab it and bring it. I think they're just right here. I got 2 of them. Let me look. There's another one. Oh, right here. I think there's even another one. Sorry about that. 2 trips home. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? You're picking out shopping for new spring things? So I went through my bin of kits and pulled out some options. This, which I absolutely love. Love, love, love. I bought this back before we lived in our house that's on the lake. We used to have a very, very charming little seasonal cottage on the lake. And the front yard was shaded by this big tree, not a birch tree, but a big tree, and it was just so pretty. This just made me think of exactly what you could put in that front yard, and it would look lovely. So I have that, and I have my Luca S that was like the mystery pattern I bought. So I don't know why I'm looking at buying a spring bouquet, because hello. And then I actually got this kit out because it's another circling back to the 14 count that's kind of easy for me to work on without a magnifier for a little while. Not spring, but summer. I don't have the spring one of these, and it's upside down. I did the winter one, the Christmas one, and it's probably what was hanging on the wall in the spot that is blank now, and it is so gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. The spring one, there's just something about it that just doesn't call to me. So at any rate, I bought the fall and the summer kits from Stash Unload, and I could get the spring from the Cooler Designs website, so it's not like I can't get it. But I actually got this one out and got the fabric out and serged it. Like, this would be my next, is what my brain was telling me. However, let me look. That's all I did, because here's this. They are all sorted and on cards. So I didn't bring with me any like floss cards and a floss ring or anything. Mostly I'm organized and gentle enough with my project, knock on wood, that I can just use their organizer. But I had the fabric, serged it, would use its stiff, hard Aida because I stitch in hand and it'll be as soft as can be partway through. So there were those that were potentials. And then I keep thinking about this other pattern that I have. I actually thought it was a kit. I don't know why. That I just love. That's obviously spring. So when I was home last weekend, I went through my spring file of patterns. Because I was thinking, why didn't I find this in the kit bin? Well, because it's not a kit, number one. That would be the reason. So anyway, I thumbed through the file and found it. And I go, oh, this is so cute. It's full coverage. I don't know how big it is. Probably a lot bigger than I think. So cute. I don't even remember where I got this. I'm thinking I ordered it online somewhere. So cute. I love that vintagey, postcardy look of it. And then now my curiosity's piqued to look and see. Pattern's got a lot of, oh dear, it's full coverage. Not that I'm a wimp and can't handle it, because I can. I'm looking at 180 by 110. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. I don't know what Kingdom of Books is, but it's a whole lot more than 180. Maybe if you did it on some really pretty sky looking fabric, you could leave the back unstitched, the background. I don't usually look for ways to get out of stitching things, like don't do this or change that or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not sure how pressing this one is, seeing as I need to start from scratch with the assembling. And then I ran across this one. It's a la-di-da pattern. Actually, it's not fully kitted, but I have the silks. This was in my, actually my spring folder is really miscellaneous because I just don't have a lot of spring patterns. So it didn't warrant its own folder. It just got the miscellaneous. So this is a la-di-da pattern. So I didn't buy this because it was pretty. I bought it because of the lullaby. So the lullaby, Hush Little Baby, is the lullaby that I always sang to my youngest daughter when I was putting her down for a nap. And it is what I sing to the baby now. And it's part of our routine, and she just settles right in and you know, drifts off and into bed she goes. I just think it's beautiful. The problem with this is the words go hush, little baby, don't say a word, and they kind of skip around, and I don't like that at all. So I brought it with me with the intent of considering regraphing the words so that they flow in order, some amount of order. I just think that's gorgeous, that overall. So we'll see if I work on this, because there's no fabric in there. This really needs a nice piece of linen, I think, to use those silks. but what it needs is a little work. So those are the things that are floating around in my brain. We'll see how much actual work I do on any of that. Kingdom of Books, I'm at that point. I always get to that point on a pattern when it's close to a finish where I just want everything else aside and I will plow through it. I knew that was coming. I didn't know it would come until March. I thought I would get through January, work on something else in February, and then go back to it in January. But right now, I can see it. I can see the end. It's in sight. I've been working on that at least. I'm going to look up my X-Stitch app here and see if I don't know if I started using X-Stitch when I was working on that or later. So let me thumb through my whips, which are all of about 14, maybe 15. It says I started it on March 1st, 2019. That is a lie. That is probably when I put it in here because I was working on it for a couple years before we moved, which was in January of 2020. I had more than, absolutely 100% more than that work done. Let me see what I said about my Heaven and Earth. Oh, I don't even have a start date on that one. I said with question marks, did I start my Heaven and Earth in 2013? Sometime, I'm going to say Kingdom of Books, I would have guesstimated 2017. But that was before I was keeping very, I'd have to go back, maybe my very first or second or third Flosstube, maybe I show it and make an actual mention of it. That would let me update that record. So anyway, okay, enough about those things. I have been reading a bit. I'm trying to get to my Goodreads app on my iPad so that I can show you that I have read a couple things worth mentioning. I am listening to the audio version of South of the Buttonwood Tree, which is by Heather Weber. So let me just show you the picture of the cover. South of the Buttonwood Tree. That has been on my want to read list for a very long time. And finally I got it from Audible. I have an Audible subscription and it's a very good story. I'm very much enjoying it. You have to maybe you would enjoy a book like this. There's a little bit of it's like sort of magical, mythical, whatever, like this buttonwood tree that you go and you ask it a question and it, I don't know, emits a button with a word on it. I don't know. And then maybe your house can talk to you a little bit or give you signs or do things. So that I can see past to enjoy the story about a young woman living in a small town and she finds a baby at the buttonwood tree when she goes on a walk one day. And so then a lot of the story is about where this baby come from and the other people that are in her life. So it's not a bad story. I can't really say how it's going to end and if it's going to be like a real story with a real ending. And then I'm also reading, I thought I went and got the book. Holy cow. Let me look through Grand Piles. Here we go. I got this book for Christmas maybe the year before last, The Big Bang Theory. And it's a thick book, like over 500 pages. It's about how the show came to be and the whole casting and the whole blah, blah. So there's a little bit of tedium. I don't know. I don't want to say that because you can just pick it up and put it down and it's not like you've missed anything, any plot lines or anything. I like that show. We've watched that since it first aired and we watch the reruns all the time because it's an easy, familiar show to put on in rerun form because there's very little else that's worth watching come evening. I'm hoping it doesn't really spoil the story for me. I read Ron Howard's autobiography and sometimes they say things about somebody on the show or things that happened or somebody who was never happy on the show or didn't like somebody else and conflict and stuff. And that sort of takes away from actually watching the show a little bit. So I'm hoping it doesn't really ruin anything. I'm hoping it enhances it, knowing some of the background of the characters. So those are current reads. I just finished, I went to the library earlier in January and just picked up this book, The Captain's Daughter, which is by Meg Mitchell Moore. And I have never read a book by this author. I very, very much enjoyed this story. The Captain's Daughter, she grew up in Maine. The woman grew up in Maine, and she's married and has some children. She married a man who came from money, and so they're living a very nice life. So it's not really about the excesses of life. And there's obviously huge differences between the little town and a lobster. Her father was a lobsterman. I think that's the word, right? So her mother died when she was young. So it was just her and her dad. And her dad gets hurt. And so she has to go home in the summer to him. So she's back in her old hometown, surrounded by some of the people she's known all her life, including an old boyfriend. And it's just, there's not anything like, there's no rekindled romance or anything. It's just, they were high school girlfriend, boyfriend, that kind of thing. But it's a story. It's a good story. It's well told. So there's a little bit of back and forth between her life in the town where she's raising her girls and her husband and the mother-in-law, and not a lot of huge conflict. It was a nice story. It was a good story. I'd like to go back to the library and see what else they have by her to read. So, because it's an author I've never encountered. So there's that. Yeah. So there's lots of reading potential. I don't read a lot because, hello, there's a baby. There's a baby in the house with me who is throwing herself around the house. She's 6 months, and so she's getting up on her hands and knees and heaving herself forward and rolling everywhere. So she's needs a lot of eyes on and interaction. So she's very cute. Very, very cute, of course. She loves the cat. Cat, not so much. The cat does not love her. The cat was in the beginning not so scared of her or worried about her, but the cat was on the arm of the chair, and I was holding the baby, and I was petting the cat, and the baby was reaching out and petting at the cat, and she grabbed a fistful of his thigh, and he yelped and ran off. So now he's a little worried about what her potential is, but she cannot get enough of him. So yeah, it's a love-hate relationship right there. So I don't know. He's gonna get used to her. There's pretty much no choice. And I don't want to say she's going to get tired of him, because every time he walks by, she freezes to look at him and gets all excited. And if you ask her, where's the kitty, she knows right where to look, because he sleeps on the couch. So yeah, it's fun. It's definitely fun. Yeah, so that's my life right now. And what else? Nothing else. Watching a little bit of Flosstube. I'm trying to think if somebody else made me think of something. Oh, this had nothing to do with Flosstube. When it rains, it pours, kind of thing. So, like the day after Christmas, I got in the mail a jury summons, and so this was going to be like the second week I had the baby, I was summoned to grand jury duty, and grand jury, not just jury duty, but grand jury. Grand jury is a long-term commitment, and you're called, and unless you have a valid excuse, you show up. You can, I don't know if this is different in other states, but in New York State you can ask for a delay once, and they'll defer you for 6 months. Sometime in that 6-month window you'll get called again, and you won't get excused again. So I was worried about doing that because it's only January and school here goes all the way till the end of June, and we don't really have a viable long-term regular backup. My daughter can take the day off of school. Her husband could take a day off of work. If I was sick or something like that, but there's not like she can't take like every other Thursday off, which is what grand jury duty turns out to be in the county I live in, every other Thursday for 4 months. So it's like 8, 9, 10 times. And I have been called for regular jury duty at the county level a number of times. And every time I go, I get one step further. Like the first time, call in, don't have to go at all. The second time, call in, I have to go. We sit there, we watch the movie, 2 hours pass, and they come and excuse us all because the defendant took a plea. The next time I went, I sat through them picking names and filling that jury box 3 times or 4 times, and I was never picked. So off I go. So I just knew it. This time my name was going to be called. So the way they do grand jury duty, they fill the seats. They filled, I think they seat 26 grand jurors and I don't know, maybe 4 alternates. No alternates. I'm going to say 26, and there has to be a quorum every time. So you could miss an occasional 1 or 2 days, but you can't, miss all of them. So when your name is called, you're on, except unless you have one of like about 4 valid excuses to be excused. So your name gets called, you're on. If you get excused and your seat is vacated, then they have drawn a second batch of people. In the order that they got called, they come and fill a seat that got vacated. So there's no, if you've ever been on jury duty, where you get put in the jury box and the attorneys ask you all kinds of questions and they can dismiss you for all kinds of reasons or no reasons. They can, so there's, rules about why or what, or they could just on a whim say, no, she's not the right demographic that we'd like for this jury. And there's a certain number of times they can try that. So even if you got called into the box, you could still not be selected. So there's more than 100 of us got called. And sure enough, my name was called, and I had to go into the other room where everybody's seated in front of the judge, and he starts asking, explaining and talking about it and how it works. And he said that there were like 4 reasons that you could be excused. And one of them is the responsibility of the care of somebody, not just, somebody who really your capacity couldn't be easily filled. And so I was excused for that reason. And thank God. I would have loved to have done grand jury. Grand jury to me is the jury duty to do. That to me would be fascinating. I was a court clerk for a long time. A regular jury, I've sat through many trials, and to me, being on the jury is almost like like work. I understand and respect the whole way the system works. It's just like a day at work. Like, oh, do I really have to do this? Like day in, like court, day in and out, day in and out, in and out. I listen to attorneys and their excuses for their clients and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, so after so many years, you just like tone it out, really. So grand jury, though, I would have been delighted to do. So I could have asked just to be excused, but put my name back in to call me back for jury duty in the future. But there's no guarantee that would have been for grand jury. I could have been called back in just for a regular trial. I understand it's a catastrophic event in somebody's life. And just regular old jury duty. I'm like, if I can't guarantee I'm on the grand jury, I don't want to do it. So anyway, long story. Done with the jury duty thing, and you're excused for 6 years. In the mail yesterday was a questionnaire for my daughter, the daughter who has the baby. And in New York State anyway, it starts with a questionnaire. You get a questionnaire in the mail, you mail it in, fill it out, mail it in, and then you're in the pool to be called. So I filled out a questionnaire like 1.5 years ago at least, and only just got called. My daughter, though, on the other hand, has never lived in the county we live in, has never lived at my house, the address I live in, does not have a driver's license, is not registered to vote in that county at that address. So I have no idea why she's getting this. I said, man, they're gunning for somebody in our family to serve on jury duty is what it, we have no idea. There is zero connection to her and our address. So I don't know. She can obviously send in the proof that she does not live in that county. That was one of the excuses you could use if you got called, and you could, one of the things is, do you not live in the county? Can you prove to me you don't live in this county anymore? So yeah, one person got excused for that reason. So how they get the names, I mean, that person I assumed had lived in the county, but my daughter never. So yeah, fun times here in New York. And that's it. That's my exciting life. Yeah. February, I will be productive in February, I expect, because, more of the same, plus a week off of baby duty. And yeah. So anyway, I'll be back hopefully again in another month. I don't know that when it would be in the time of day. Like right now it's all the way 8:20. She'll be here probably in an hour. So I had a little bit of time. So yeah, I'll be back when I can be back. Bye.